Yeah, okay.
All right, I'd like to call the meeting to order for October 19, 2022. It is 6:05. Public comments for items on the agenda for discussion and not action. Any public comments? Thank you. Moving on to the town reports. Administrator report.
All right, so let's see. First thing I had was the paving. It was done. The feedback was positive. It went well. The one thing to keep in mind with that is because the 4 roads that were paved, the chip seal will need to be done, and the recommendation is that they do it within a year. So this winter, when we are going through the budget season, we will need to keep in mind and set money aside into the reserve account to get that done next summer. Carol and I met with the Long Island Town Administrator and the chair of the Select Board, and we discussed various different public safety, harbor master, comprehensive plan, a number of different things. And where we kind of left off is that there are definitely some areas where the 2 towns can work together in the future to potentially combine forces, and that sometime towards the winter, maybe it would make sense to have a joint workshop to really get more members of the different boards together to put, some ideas together. So that was a good meeting. The next thing is the ordinance changes. I did end up meeting with John Wilson, who's the chair of the planning board. We had, as you know, a number of ordinance changes that weren't properly done last winter that we were going to try to do for the November election. With the way the timing worked out and as busy as it's really been, Chris and I weren't able to get everything together, and I had a lot of questions about numbers, whether it was accurate. So, we have a number of ordinances that need to be changed that I had spoken to him about some additional things that you had mentioned in previous meetings the last couple of weeks in terms of growth ordinance and a few other discussions that took place that the planning board is going to look into. And with those, they're going to try to work to get those to us for the June meeting. But if it's all to you, unless we want to schedule a special town meeting between now and, just January or so, we were going to hold off on all these ordinance changes until June and do it properly, do the public hearings, advertise it in the newspaper. That way, now that I know exactly what the words are, what needs to be changed, then I feel a little bit more confident doing that. And then we will hear from the planning board. Yeah, John's here in terms of, what they're able to do and if they bring anything to us in the next couple of months before the June meeting. Any questions about that? Yes, Bob.
Question for the planning board chair, or maybe you know the answer. Would the planning board prefer to wait until June, or would they prefer to tack this on to a special town meeting in midwinter?
Can I answer? Sure. I think it'd be fine to wait until June, mainly because not only will these get done, but in the works are changes to the planning board ordinance and the management ordinance. Be good to do everything all at once, I think, and make sure we've got everything in the town hall to be reviewed and make everything in lockstep and make it happen. That'd be my preference.
Brad?
I don't have a question about the ordinance changes. I had a question about paving, if we could jump back to that really quick. And maybe Mark can answer this as well. The chip sealing, having it done in a year, are other roads, have we had them chip sealed within a year? Is that how that's worked?
The current ones that we just did this summer were extended longer than they should have been because they were supposed to be done last year. But to my knowledge, and you could speak to this, that typically it's for the longevity of the road, that's what they're suggesting.
They usually recommend within 1 to 2 years to try to chip seal them. That's what they usually recommend. We don't always accomplish that with the budget and the actual schedule of the work, but that's what they usually recommend.
The firehouse and all those were.
Yeah, so
Trying to remember.
what is your question?
Those weren't cold mix. It was cold mix, I mean, it wasn't, chips.
Yeah, so, so the only thing that we'll need to chip seal next year that will be ready, in my opinion, will be the ones that we just did, which will be Old Cart Road, Chandler Cove Road, tops of Fenderson and Caps. Everything else has been chip sealed. The lingering issue for us is right out here, South Road, which from Roy Hill to the end is old hot top pavement. It was the best road Cumberland left us with. But we've done some repairs to some of it, and we haven't quite finished. You remember, there's a culvert in front of Julie Dowdy's mailbox that still needs replacement. That's an old rusted out galvanized culvert. There's also both houses for Cellar Green. And then we may or may not do the new culvert near her garage on the Milconian property because of how that was easement or surveying or something. So, I'm getting long-winded, but, we'll have to make a budget decision first and foremost this year, and I'm probably gonna lean for the leaner side of things this year.
Well,
Just a quick point, if we're trying to make a decision between chip sealing in the summer of 23 versus summer of 24, in any situation, it's gonna be cheaper to do it sooner. In the current situation, with the oil situation, there's a really good chance it's gonna be cheaper to do it sooner. So I would also lean toward lean, but sooner as opposed to later. Is it lean?
the paving, what about their request about that hump on the Chambers?
I talked to Doug about it, and, after the initial thought, it seemed like a good idea, and it's similar to what Mark had suggested. Doug said that specifically where it's located and the type of material, it would be not the most efficient fix to do it, so they held off. There is a decent amount of extra material that was left over, which is good because, you know, with where the telephone pole, once that gets moved, that the Public Works crew could put some on. But as far as that pump, that is something that Public Works has on the list, and they do plan to get it done before November 15th.
Carol?
So when you say there's extra material left over, is Public Works going to use that to do it? I guess I just want to understand what happens.
The extra material that they have, what they'll do is, one of the things that they will use it for is, at the curb at Chandler's, right on the corner, there is a telephone pole that will need to be moved. But there'll be an area that, will need to be filled in, and as long as that's done before chip seal goes on, then Public Works can easily just, you know, throw some of the material and flatten it out, and, so it will be things like that they would use it for.
Any other questions? All right. Moving on.
Bennett's Cove, so the last meeting we had, I shared a communications with you that was received from Lionel Plant in terms of, a temporary solution that was suggested for, to try to help out and eliminate any, noise and to get the trucks quicker in and out of the beach so they're not getting stuck for extended period of time. I spoke to him, to get more information in terms of some of the questions he had was how much space it was gonna cover, whether fishermen could still get in. And he was very aware of the fishermen and able to provide information that it would take up 45 feet. It would be where they barge in now, but then after speaking to our code enforcement officer, and then after speaking to the gentleman who is going to do the surveying down there, it really, right now, the best thing to do is just wait until the survey is done, which the survey is hoping to get it done by the end of the year. The cost is estimated to be between $4,000 and $5,000, which the selectmen approved $5,000 expenditure for that. Because knowing the exact lines before doing anything, before going DEP, Jim said that DEP is not going to grant permission to even a temporary thing to help out unless they know, have some drawings. And so at this point, it's just best to wait until that survey is done and then decide what if, anything needs to be done down there, whether it's temporary or whether it's more permanent.
Karen?
Just one thing I was a little confused about, because you say topographic survey, so are they doing just the property boundaries? Are they also doing the surface topography?
So what they're doing right now is just going to be the town property line of where the town road is and where the town land is. His suggestion is if the town is thinking or talking to doing any kind of potential work in the future, whether it's, temporary or more permanent, it would be more cost effective for you. And so he said, give me a description of even this so what I did is I gave him a description of this kind of temporary suggestion that Lionel had, just to give him a general perspective. And I was waiting to hear back a quote on, to cover that area, how much it would cost to add to that. That I have not heard back.
So, but he was talking about doing it at the same time.
Yes, because that's what his suggestion was. If you're doing this now and if you're thinking of doing that in the future, it's best to do it all at once, even if you're not going to use that information in the future. Give me a general description of how much extra space you're looking for. And so I sent that to him, but haven't heard back of that additional. But either way, we're on his list to do the survey of the work and find out the property lines. So,
And I would agree with his suggestion that if he's gonna come out through the boundary survey, doing a topo survey of the area of interest would make sense. It's just that we could run up against the cap that we voted on, so if it turns out to be higher, we might have to visit that.
and that's kind of what I was thinking, that it would have to come back to you for that decision, as you did, he says the quote is between 4 and 5, he voted for 5, so very often it doesn't stay under the budget, so.
Did he give you sort of time expectation as to when he would get you a cost estimate for the top of the portion?
No, so last week we were doing pretty good, going back and forth in emails, and then it just kind of came at a standstill, so I was, didn't want to be too much of a nag, and so I did this, typed it up on the 14th, haven't heard from them, so I was kind of gonna wait a week or so and then follow up, so. That's what I have for the TA report. Any questions?
Jack?
Is Colin, I assume the letter is from Colin long-term,
Yes.
is that reflected in the packet or?
It was in the last selectmen's packet, it was shared under communications.
And the other question I have is,
did he comment on, I'll use the word design of the concrete planks, besides the length that you mentioned?
I guess you have to be more specific than the design. He just said that how big the planks would be and how much space they'd take up and how they would place them.
Okay.
And that in placing them, they would do it in mindset to, accommodate knowing where the fishermen are coming in at.
Hmm.
But
I'll look at that. Thank you.
All right, any other questions? Comments? Moving on. Regular business, 22-093 to consider and act on the 2024 budget schedule. I just wanted to ask if we're gonna have the audits done enough today by then.
I'm hopeful that yes, we will. So we had yesterday, they came out to collect, to work on the audit for fiscal year 2021. It's the second time they came in person, but then they also started collecting, sending them stuff 2022. She didn't have a specific date or didn't know when they would be done with the 21. But I think their goal, and last time I talked to the Ron, the owner, was that he was aware that we were so behind that the idea was to have them both done for us before our next budget season. So I think they should be done.
So typically we have a select person that's in charge to run the meetings for budget. That way, that's his whole, that's his direction, that's what he does. And he's semi-quasi authorized to ask questions to the department heads, to all state. Typically, Mark does it every year. I would recommend that Mark does it this year if he wants to, but the table is open for anybody to like to do it if they want to try it. Oh, just sliding back.
Read it on the right, or just a discussion?
I don't think we need a motion.
I can be grateful to do
I guess my question is, Mark, do you want to do it again?
It's fine with me. I have a couple of quick questions and points, if I may.
Yeah.
I'm hoping that I will be here on Saturday, February 10th, but that may be in question. My wife and I are in negotiations with whether I'm going to actually leave the island, which is something to behold. The second thing is, schedule looks pretty good to me. I think, as we know, where the rubber tends to hit the road is the capital discussion. The departments, I don't mean to minimize the departments and their operational funding, but they're easier than the capital discussion. So once we get going, please give some real thought to what you think the priorities of the capital plan should be, and also the impact of doing or not doing capital projects in the year. It can be important to not kick the can down the road too far, but not overload the budget at the same time. It's a tricky balance, in my experience. The other thing I'd like to ask the Board of Selectmen and the town administrator for their opinion, and anyone listening as well. The joint meeting with the school committee, I heard some rumblings after last year's meeting, and at least one, maybe two members felt like we asked too many questions of their budget and picked it apart. So I would welcome any experienced members from the school board and select board of how we think that meeting should be structured. If we should structure it different than last year or not, I'm not trying to continue any disagreements. I just want to make sure that the school board and the select board are on the same page and the public hears a good, healthy discussion. I didn't see that it was that bad myself. We started out with their presentation of the school board proposed budget. We had quite a few detailed questions. They asked if they were going to have an opportunity to ask questions about our budget, which of course they were welcome to do. And then that happened, and I thought everything was fine, and then 2-3 days later, I found out that it wasn't fine with at least a couple of people. So keep your ears open, keep your minds open if you have any suggestions before that meeting.
I just had, I had a couple complaints also. They didn't know that we were gonna, they thought it was just gonna be a presentation of the school budget, not going through our budget also at the time. So it was kind of,
They requested it. They specifically requested it. Actually, a majority of them requested it. 3 of them
that day,
that night.
during the night.
Yeah.
But it
I wasn't
wasn't,
gonna say no, because they're.
I understand our point there, but it wasn't advertised as we were gonna go through our budget and stuff.
Oh, wasting time.
You know, we've
George
already,
point,
we've already vented our stuff, so if they wanted to know our budget, they should have came to our budget.
So the more that we're clear on that, the better we can run the.
So my thoughts were like this, school committee meeting to present presentation of their budget or something like that, not a
Okay.
joint meeting, I don't know.
All right,
I don't know if that's, we can talk about it later, but we need to have it finalized. That's my biggest concern, is that at that meeting, it still had several things up in the air. And
When you say we need to have it finalized, you mean the school budget needs to be finalized?
yes,
Okay. Well, I think
We
that's
were-
one of the details we should cover.
yeah, we were cutting close to the time frame as far as when we needed to get stuff done. You know, get the stuff to the lawyer, get the warrant to the lawyer, and all this stuff.
I guess I'm just saying, the more clarity that we can have on the goal of the structure of the meeting would be helpful. Whatever people think.
Paul,
I'd suggest that our budget leader and one of our select board members who have been members of the school board in the past, maybe have a sit down with 2 members of the school committee and just kind of outline how the budget process could work better. And use that as starting point. Bring up some of these points, have them bring up some points, come to agreement, and then we've got a roadmap. going forward.
I mean, all that it says is joint meeting. You can take that anyway.
Carol,
So to that end, it seems a little late to be, bringing in the school budget, which is a substantial part of the town budget. So I guess I don't understand, I don't know the process very well. Do you have a mill rate, minimum increase that you're operating under for the overall umbrella? I mean, what is the budget process in terms of the financial goals and constraints? Do you identify that ahead of time? So I think, and then the other part, I would think, maybe not necessarily a joint meeting, but I think you'd want to see the school budget prior to April. Because that's pretty late in the I mean, could they submit a copy of their draft budget to the school, to the select board, so at least we know where we're heading? And maybe it's a meeting between, Mark and a select board member and a school committee member, something like that.
so as far as the school budget themselves, we don't usually tend to correct or like go line by line we usually we have questions on this. Why is this $30,000 increase from last year? Because people are gonna ask us why, So ultimately, we're responsible for their budget, but we're not responsible for putting it together. They come up with all the numbers.
I know, I've been on the school board, so I'm pretty well aware of how that works, but I guess one thing that I don't understand overall in the town budget process, because I haven't participated closely, at the beginning of the budget process, is there a goal? Like you said, I'm gonna be kind of lean. So does the select board decide what the goals are for the 2024 fiscal year budget?
So if you look at the first meeting, January 3rd, Board of Selectmen meeting, discuss budget goals / priority. That's an opportunity for each select board member to say what he or she thinks they believe the priority should be. Whether we hold ourselves to those goals of priority as the process goes along can be questioned, because sometimes, departments will have increases or capital items will be introduced that sometimes 3 of us think are good and 2 of us think are bad. And so as we're going through each meeting, I usually ask for a informal consensus of whether we want to keep capital items in there at a certain amount or not. And then we get another shot at it later on, and then eventually if it makes it or doesn't make it to the final presentation of the budget. As far as trying to shoot for a certain mill rate, I don't think we get that specific early on, but, a good goal would be to keep the mill rate.
I mean, a lot of towns do operate that way.
Yeah, you'll have the budget committee when they're doing that, though, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, I just was curious if there was a mill rate, a maximum mill rate increase you want to stay under that you set as a limit in the beginning. Well, if it's 0, whatever, that's what.
We try to keep everything flat.
The entire budget number in general, I mean, not the mill rate.
Yeah, not the mill rate,
Budget number,
sorry.
to try to keep it as close to last year's as possible.
The mill rate, the budget can be different. The budget can go up, the mill rate can stay the same.
Yeah.
It's probably, but I don't know how many applications we've had for, people's taxes to be held steady. So, but I guess that, and are those goals sort of like clear? Are they a consensus of goals amongst the select board as you start, or is it kind of everybody's individual goals?
In the beginning, that'll be a statement of individual goals, in my opinion, at that January 3rd meeting. As the process gets underway, I mean, we can all see how the consensus is before we get going. My goal is almost the same every year. I don't like the taxes and spending to go up. But unfortunately, with the way things have been going on last year, just the index alone and the benefits and insurance. And fuel and paving, we don't have to do paving. Paving is an example of a capital plan. You can kick down the road a little bit. Bird would hate to hear him say that. He's just one.
I think we're going a little off topic here.
We'll make one point.
Yeah,
These dates are all incorrect. These dates and these days on this list are not accurate.
okay.
Every one of them is in, but Wednesday, April.
Oh, I see, they're not.
April 3rd is really April 5th if it's Wednesday. They're all off by a day or two.
Okay.
Got it.
Okay.
And Bo, one last question though, is there a capital plan that we have that we're operating off of?
We pretty much just go through our capital. That's,
So there is no capital plan? I mean, there used to be a capital plan.
We have an existing list of capital project titles. We have some reserved funds in place that are with some goals or some action plan with them specifically, and Trio will print us out a capital list. Okay?
yes.
Just quickly, I probably the ones that spoke about the school committee and I would be happy to discuss my ideas in January when we get into the budget, how to structure that differently.
Okay. So, what I'd like to do is table this, if
before we accept this date, this schedule, due to the fact that some of the dates are wrong.
Yeah.
So-
24, that's why.
So we'll table this till the next meeting just to adopt the date.
Yeah.
Or accept the date. All right. Moving on, 22-0940 here, report from the facility committees and Port City architects.
So they're coming on the 6:30, Beth Wiles is picking them up, they're not here, so do you wanna skip the,
Which one will not take us long to talk about?
the CD and Mahar one should,
Okay,
I mean,
so let's move on to the next one, 22-095 to discuss the proposal for Stephen Mahar Engineering Incorporated on landfill monitoring and take any necessary action.
so this is the biannual monitoring that's done at the transfer station. $9,000 was set aside for that particular work in this year's budget. We do have $9,000 in it. CB and Mahar has historically been the ones that have done it. So they recently reached out to me and said, hey, you're on the list. Let me send it if, once it's proposed, then we'll move forward. If it's, the proposal is approved, they will have this done by the end of October. The one thing in it is that they're recommending, that they do some additional work, which is described in the second page, that is going to be an additional $1,800. And it's a water supply inventory. And whether or not you want to do that is up to you, but if you do want to take that extra step, then I would recommend that money come out of contingency, that difference of $1,800.
Karen?
We have a pretty good water supply inventory already of the wells within a half a mile of the landfill, so I think the town can complete that task. I mean, I don't think we need to hire them to do that. We have from previous groundwater studies we've done, we have an inventory. So my suggestion is we stick with the regular monitoring and we can provide for that. And I'd be happy to take that responsibility to provide the well information within a half mile. Save some money.
Any other questions? Mark?
Mine was the same. Are we required to do that? Or can do it some other way? So she answered it.
Do we have some kind of paperwork, or do we just, there's no, thank you. Contract for this, or?
So I believe in talking to him and looking at the previous paperwork, this is the proposal. You would approve this proposal and just stick to the $9,000 monitoring. They would send this to me. I would sign it and then they would start it. So this is
Okay.
kind of the contract, or this is the proposal of the contract.
So is there a motion to approve the proposal and have the town administrator sign once we get the paperwork? Fair?
I'm not making a motion, I'm just acknowledging that my husband works for CDM Mahar. But they have been the contractor with stuff and monitoring for decades, so I don't personally feel conflict, so I don't feel it's necessary to recuse myself, so I'm just acknowledging that.
Okay. Pollard, sorry.
Make a motion that we authorize CD Mahar to prepare a contract in the amount of $9,000 for the post-closure monitoring of the Shabig Island landfill for the year 2022, and that we authorize the town administrator to sign the contract for $9,000 under that.
What were the last couple words you said? You trailed off.
When it arrives.
I don't know.
Sorry.
All right.
Any questions?
Jen, second.
Yes. Comments? Anything from the public? All in favor? All right, moving on to 22-096 to hear an update of the stone wharf discussion.
Since that might be a longer one, might it make sense to do communications or minutes or something first, thinking these architects will walk in a minute?
The vote gets in at 6:45, so I think we probably have about 10 minutes.
Is this the RFP update?
Yes,
Okay.
so this is all you, Carol.
Right, so the last meeting I was at, I was tasked with looking into, we did receive, the next phase of the stone wharf work. We have received a grant from Ship and Harbor, I guess, I don't know,
Shore and Harbor.
Shore and Harbor grant to the tune of just under 50,000. We have to match 25 on that. We received a proposed request for qualifications, sort of a format from Wright Pierce that we could use for that work. So then I basically went through the documents, both the contract, both the proposal and the contract for that work, and then talked to some of the individuals, in particular, the person that could potentially do the coastal modeling. So that's a big, and what I wanted to get a handle on, so I can understand, was what portion of the work did that involve, and sort of what the time frame was. And so I've talked to two different people who do coastal modeling. They both gave me pretty much the same information, $50,000 to $60,000, depending, but it could be less. They don't really know until they get into it and start evaluating it. So that's the upper end. And that it would take 4 to 5 months to complete. And so when I read over, and maybe you can elaborate maybe on the proposal and then the contract that was signed with the program, but it was there are really just two deliverables in the project. One is the coastal modeling part of the project, and the other part is sort of community outreach, which I don't exactly know what that is. I guess it's probably sort of the conversation with the community about what the ultimate design elevation will be, because it's not just an engineering decision. Basically, you do different scenarios, and then the community can weigh in on kind of how conservative they want to be. This proposal, the way it's written, and based on my conversation with a couple of the engineers, would include both sea level rise and FEMA storm surge. And one of the outcomes would also be potentially to get a letter of exception from FEMA, because the current base flood elevation is 20 feet, which is extremely high and probably not necessary. So that's a sort of a separate process that has a longer timeline, because FEMA could take quite a while to respond. So the way I think we need this is the one that we received from Wright Pierce, there's nothing wrong with it, it's just very general. I think what I would recommend is that we have a scope item that's much more specific to the coastal modeling, what the deliverables are, and then the second step being sort of the community outreach and decision making. And in particular, I think given the past, I think it's important that we're really specific about what the deliverables are. So it would be a modeling report with, different scenarios, recommended elevations, letter of exception to FEMA, no guarantee that we would get an exception, but likely. And, sort of try to be a little bit more specific than what was given to us. So the real question is, this doesn't, the one that we received doesn't really ask for cost information. For example, the one the facilities committee just sent out does ask for cost information. So I guess that's my primary question. If we're going to send an RFQ or RFP, which is slightly different, out, do we want the consultants sending back cost information, or do we just want, basically the other option is to ask for their qualifications, which is, and, then we talk to them, or we pick a short list and decide who we want. So, I don't know how it was done in the past, I think it was before your time, even when they picked this particular contractor. So I'm not sure what the process was previously, maybe Mark, you know.
Well, man,
Yes.
so RFQ request for qualifications. And basically, that's what we write there, trying to figure out if they were going to be the right choice for some sort of design and engineering down at the stone wall. We felt that they were, so we awarded them the contract.
And the other, did you have other people submit RFQs?
I can't remember.
It doesn't seem like it.
We went from Collins.
I don't know what the process was, but normally this process is somewhat competitive in that you're asking multiple parties to submit
Yeah.
qualifications.
Well, that's always the goal,
Right.
usually the goal.
Right.
Not always the outcome.
Right.
Part of it is the business of all of these businesses and the lack of enough staffing. But I would be comfortable with an RFQ and then make a decision on whether we felt comfortable.
And I mean, this is a critical path step. In other words, we really can't do anything until we make a decision on the design elevation. So I think it's important that we move forward with that. And, but I'm assuming that the goal is to solicit responses from more than one firm. Right?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I think that's probably enough. And then in terms, so basically an RFQ without cost information, just a rate schedule. You know, this is what we charge per hour kind of thing.
Yeah, why they would be qualified to do what we hope to do and what it might cost us.
And then from there, we'd sign a contract with whoever we select.
Wouldn't we get requests for proposals after?
Yes.
We can, but I think we can get requests.
My goal would be to get select three people who were qualified and then to ask each of them for a proposal.
Yes, we can do that.
One of the reasons why Right Here has recommended that we go through this process and rather than continuing with them, put it back out there and see who and what if anybody else is interested. They obviously are one of the firms that are interested is because this particular step of going back out and have other firms come and show their interest is a big part towards grant opportunities in the future. So this is one of really the primary reason why we're kind of making this pause to try to send out a request for qualifications, because for some odd reason, when it comes to grant opportunities and submission for grants, some of these locations that we would ultimately apply would want to see that, we really spread our wings and reached out to see of all the different opportunities. And like you said, this would be the initial step. Hopefully more than one would apply. You would look at all of them and then you would ask them to submit cost outlines. And then as a board, you decide which one would be the best qualified one to move forward.
But I think when this step is pretty much the coastal modeling with a little extra money. I mean, as far as the grant funds go, there's not going to be much more beyond the coastal modeling that you're going to be able to do. And I think it makes sense to kind of keep that as a discrete scope of work, understanding that you may continue with that contractor into a more involved design. So I agreed we would get a cost proposal, but I just wanted to understand kind of, because I think the previous one was just, there was not a competitive process. It was just given to a particular, somehow.
I found a number of proposals similar to that in the computer that were put out. I don't know the extent of how far, but majority of the time, this information has been put on at least the MMA website.
Okay, so I will come back with an RFQ. And I think though it will have more detail on the scope side, because that sort of makes it clear to everybody what we're looking for. And then the other thing is when we get to the contracting side, I think we need to be more comprehensive about the deliverables in terms of asking for the digital files and the kinds of things we've asked for in the past. That would really be in the specific contract with whoever the firm is for firms. Normally, these are not single firms. They usually end up being teams of firms. Okay. So I will have that for the next meeting, or prior to the next meeting, so we can send it out to everyone.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you. So.
Should be there any minute.
All right, would you guys entertain going through to communications next? Any communications?
No.
The one commu-
Between the executive session and
Yeah.
the TA report, I think any form of communication, one way or another, has been checked off.
The one communication I got was actually from David Hill about, keeping in mind about some kind of facility to put, to house the, actually, I don't know what it's called, I don't know.
Equipment shed.
Equipment shed. So either we house it, you kind of asking about the facility committee, because we briefly talked about it, so we were talking about putting something next to the road, next to the telephone pole. So there's places to talk. I asked David about what size approximately and stuff. I wasn't able to open it. So I didn't have any internet where I was, so, anyway, so we'll look into it and try to figure something. Do you know what time frame you kind of need that by?
It's a long time frame, probably the second quarter of next year. Yeah, I'm here tonight representing the broadband committee. And just to make sure that we're coordinating with whatever's being done on that site. And I suspect that whatever's being done on that site is gonna be further down the road than our need, which, as I say, should be in the second quarter of next year. But just to coordinate the two efforts so that we, literally don't get on top of each other. And so that's really my purpose here tonight. And I did bring the, basically, might as well talk about it now if you want. A little bit.
I'm fine with it, everybody's fine with it?
I'd be happy to take up a little time. Basically, Mike Recorder sent out last June to the facilities committee, basically an outline of what we're looking at and a picture of what we have currently, which are those two boxes in front of the Calder property. And what we're suggesting, and it's very flexible, is on this, if you think of the fire station off to the right, almost into the woods, would be one place with a setback of how much feet, I think 20 feet or something like
I'm
that.
not a code enforcement officer, I can't answer that.
Yeah, something
Yeah.
back from the road, actually in where there are trees now. And then that would connect to the generator, so that the generator would service both the fire station. That's one part of the coordination that would have to be as you're planning the fire station and town office, is that the generator ideally should cover everything rather than having, 2 or 3 generators. So that's all I'm suggesting is that, and I don't know what the facilities committee is planning as far as coming back with a recommendation, but whatever it is, as I say, I think we need to coordinate between these two efforts and make sure we're not on top of each other.
So I can tell you, we haven't really narrowed on that. We haven't really looked at that as far as our current needs. We're basically looking to see a direction as far as what kind of building we're gonna propose to the town. So,
Yeah, and what we're talking about here is not a massive structure. We're talking 6 by 6 feet with, and I think it probably should be, a structure of some kind to protect the innards.
but it might not be, it might be just freestanding like we have right now. But it's 6 by 6 feet, so probably we're talking about maybe a 10 by 10, base, concrete, and that's about it. And as they say, access to, poles, and lines and such.
All right, thank you. All right, any other communications? Oh,
Just to follow up on that, I would suggest we officially request the facilities committee to keep that in their plan, whether it's part of the new structure or at our existing structures.
and well, I will say to that is that will come in fruition faster than this thing. So it's kind of, that's not really the charge that we had, so.
I have a question for David as well.
Yeah.
David, if it's tied, if the, I would call it a switch, whatever it's called, is tied to the generator at the town office, does that mean internet would continue in the event of a power outage?
That's the intent.
So if a individual residence had some sort of independent power at their residence and they had a fiber connection, and that fiber equipment was tied to a generator, then an individual home would still have internet connectivity. That's the hope, is what you're saying.
That's correct.
Awesome. Thank you.
What we currently have, again, in front of Calder's house, you'll see the two posts. You'll also see a generator covered up with a tarp. And we would have a little bit more sophisticated system, one that would come on automatically, one that we wouldn't have to run down and pour gasoline into it every 3 hours. And it would be more reliable than what we have now. But that's the intent, is to keep internet service available and running throughout the island. But it would be dependent upon the ultimate user having power to accept it.
Thank you.
Would paying for such a small facility be part of the broadband budget or part of the facilities?
It's part of the budget for the project as it stands.
And our code enforcement officer is aware of this, and it would be put in that on town facility. We go through any kind of requirement that any other, permit on the island. So he's aware of it, and I think he's looked at it. And so regardless of what happens with the facility committee in terms of the buildings, there is an understanding that that is going to be coming to the current town property location, and what happens, will be dealt with when that time comes.
All right. Yes.
We go in a minute.
Yeah. So moving on to approved minutes from September 28th, 2022, and October 5th, 2022. There a motion?
Motion to approve the minutes of September 28, 2022 as written.
Right, for a second?
Second.
Yeah. Sure. Any comment? Questions? All right, all in favor? All right. So there's
Motion to approve the minutes from October 5th, 2022 as written.
second by Mark. All right, any questions, comments? All in favor? Carol, here.
So I don't.
So Fort City is here. They want to do slides and put things up. So we're going to give them a minute to set up their projector up there. In the meantime, if people want to take a bathroom break, or if the selectmen want to take a look at the calendar. That works.
If I could just introduce, and you can also take it back while we're doing this at the same time. Thank you for this time this evening. Purpose of the Building and Facilities Committee is to conduct an in-house assessment and look at they've done a study on the town office, fire and EMS building. The town hired Port City Architecture to conduct a study. You've received it in your packet, and it's available for the public online. We met on September 29th as a committee. Some of our committee members are here. We have Tim in the background, he works for the town as a bookkeeper. And we have Ralph, and we have David Bruner, who is helping us, Vita and Bo. So they are going to put together, they're going to show you some pictures. And what we are looking for here tonight is to give you an idea of what we are looking at for long and short-term goals. Also, though, we'd like to put the Building and Facilities Committee on a future agenda, so we can go over what everybody is seeing tonight and also help as a group, the Board of Selectmen, the public, and the committee to get a direction and a plan of where we're going next. So without further ado, I hope that they can manage the technical part of this.
We're on it.
You're on it. It's my pleasure to introduce you to Port City Architecture. We have Curtis Robinson and Andy Hyland. Thank you.
Second enough, you want more lights out?
So anybody, you told me if you guys can see, that's fine.
Maybe you can move it away from the wall a little bit, make it larger.
Yeah, we can move it over.
Presentation.
You get it, move it on, take it back.
Yeah, I think we got another couple of feet. Okay, I can come up.
You guys are talking, can you just try to speak up so then this little machine captures
Sure.
it?
My name is Andy Hyland, and this is Curtis Robinson from Port City Architecture. We were hired a while ago to just kind of review what your town needs are for the fire station and for the town hall itself. We do a lot of this. We've probably done 30 plus police, fire, municipal projects in the last 6 years or so. So we've met with the committee a couple of times, and we've been out to the site, and so I just wanted to walk you kind of quickly through our process, what we've done so far. So we're still very early in this. We like to come in and tell you, kind of step by step what we're doing, so we don't get too far ahead of the project. Let's see if I can get this. There you go. Okay. Once you run the slides, Chris, I'll just stop. I have no slide. So first thing we do is come in and just from the scratch portion of it, we do a space program. So we take a look at your town And we've done a lot, like I said, at fire stations. Kind of what do you need? And we interviewed Ralph and everyone, and what do you guys need to kind of bring your fire station up to kind of modern standards? And something that's kind of, firefighting's changing. I mean, the volunteer system's getting, it's getting difficult, especially on an island, to have, to maintain a volunteer force. That's pretty much all the way through Maine and New England, pretty much all the way through the country. So it's a lot of per diem people and a lot of full-time people that, stay at the fire station, especially on EMS kind of calls. So we take a look at the spaces you need. We went through kind of just every little space by space. I won't go through like each piece, but some bunk rooms, even a few bunks rooms that for people to stay in, live in, training rooms. There's health and safety stuff that's really kind of come into play now, like the decontamination area that you can kind of clean stretcher boards, clean your turnout gear if you've been in a fire. There's health and safety. There's a lot of carcinogens they're finding now that firefighters are exposed to that are shortening their lives, and that so the new station designs really bring that into mind in health and safety. So the bottom line is, so without looking at what you have now, we just kind of take a look, and we also vet this from other towns of similar sizes, what they have for modern stations. And the bottom line was about 8,500 square feet. That's with all the circulation is what we came up with for the fire station. Next, so the town hall, we met with Vika, and again, kind of came up with what type of offices she needs. And we're trying to do this also with a thought for the future, the town, where you're going to grow into, so that the space doesn't become, obsolete, when you move in. And we went through, again, same step-by-step process. Storage rooms, you don't have a vault right now for old town records. You need a fireproof vault. You need conference room, the offices, areas to meet with the public, etc. So our number for the town hall was about 3,200. So this is what you have, just kind of a graph of what you have now. So 3,200 is what we believe is the right number for the town hall, and Vika's at about 800 square feet, kind of sitting on top of each other. Fire stations got 3,600, and we're telling you about 8,500 would be the number that you should bring your fire station up to. So those are just a quick graph of it. Just some of the building deficiencies we went through. The building itself's poorly insulated. It did get an upgrade, that there were some, they did put insulation in the roof. That was good. The walls are still concrete block with brick on them, and maybe some of it's been tried to be retrofitted, but it's not a really ideal insulated system. There's no sprinkler system. Nowadays, any police, fire station, hospital needs to meet more stringent codes, IBC codes. So they want these buildings to be the last building standing. If there's like a major hurricane roars through the area, they're telling us that there will be an earthquake sometime in May. Not sure about that, but we designed the higher seismic standards. Buildings not ADA, doesn't meet ADA codes. And there's a lot of missing requirements, like we talked about. Training rooms would be good to have an emergency operations center, maybe, or shelter in this building, especially if it's one that's the kind of last building standing, and we know it's going to be there. Decon room, again, that's a place you can clean up before you go into the living areas. Turnout gear shouldn't be in the apparatus space. That should be separated. Vehicle exhaust system. So we're really trying to get the diesel fumes, away out of the living area, and keeping a kind of clean, dirty airspace in the whole piece. There's some aging, MEP systems. emergency exitings, needs some, lighting and, exit signs. And there's a huge, there's a lot of storage that they really kind of need.
What's it mean?
Mechanical, electrical, plumbing, so just, your building systems. So they're not terrible, but they're, but they should be upgraded. And the service is about, I think, a 400 amp service, so that would get bigger if we, renovated the building. So again, just a couple of quick slides, you guys have all been here, so, it's very cramped in the town offices, you can just kind of buzz through these, I think everybody's seen this probably. Break room, small, they having to put storage in the break room. A lot of people crammed into small offices, so you just need more room. So from the program, we took a couple of looks at what might the solution be, where we might go. And this is where where we got a couple options. This is where we're pausing and kind of gonna leave it to the town and the select board to, give us input. We like the way you're going. No, we hate the way you're going, whichever that might be. But our first inclination was, maybe we can just take over some of that existing fire station space for the town hall, and then add on the remaining square footage that we need. So this would be a 2-story addition in that kind of L piece. It would have the offices, living areas, and 4 new app bays. So the one thing we need to do would be to try to retain that last app bay. It'd be a little tricky again to do that structurally, to try to make that an essential facility, not fall down when it's attached to the existing building that's not very structurally sound. It's unreinforced concrete block walls, so any kind of shaking that would come down in a hurry. But that would be an idea, or something, a challenge on it to do. We don't really have the room to do it all in 1 story. We always prefer to do that, so we don't have to get into the elevators. And then there's 2 stair towers that take up square footage, they cost money. So taking a quick look at this, and these are really, there are numbers from buildings that we're doing currently. Prices, I'm sure, as you all are very aware, have gone way up. We use a number of 525 a square foot to 550 as a completely done building. So that's like our fees paid, all that. Where the furniture, it's turnkey, so you go in from start to finish, all the permitting done, everything like that. So if we took a look at this building, and then it looks like it would be for the fire department addition about 403,000. We've since again talked to our structural engineer. That might go up a bit again, just trying to figure out how to seismically separate that last bay from the rest of the town hall. Might be a little trickier than we thought, and I think while we got the sizes of the elevator, et cetera, I don't think we got the elevator itself, which is another 100,000, 120,000 these days. So we told you minimum investment would be if you just did the fire station portion and let town hall kind of work in the existing rooms that were left over, and then you could pick at that in the future to remodel town hall. But the minimum investment 403, maybe it might be closer to 405 or 4,500,000. Excuse me.
Is it okay to ask questions?
Absolutely, yeah, we're easy, yeah.
Okay, so a couple questions. One, you said no more space. Why could the new red L not extend further to the left? And why could we not utilize the space off to the right?
So the space off to the right is where your septic fields are. We didn't want to interfere in the existing septic systems, which may have to be enlarged as well, in this whole system. The space on the left, it's kind of hard to see, but those are your setbacks, and so we pulled it like right
Oh, I
to
see the
the,
setbacks now,
yeah, so we pulled it like right to the setbacks. And, kind of turned it that way. I think, it would be, you could egress. I think the egress would be fine, working, in that situation. But it's a bit tight. The good news is, the site's kind of level. It's, there's not a lot of additional site work. We could maybe pick up on, the utilities that are there, improve them. So I think we did 525 for this one. We did 550 across the street because it was all, brand new kind of virgin site across the street, the next option. But we pulled about 525 and 350, I think, for the renovation of the existing building to do it right, do the whole thing. And that's what I said you could kind of pick away at. Yeah.
When you say the septic, existing septic, if you had to increase it, is it like one of those things that you never move the septic, or you don't?
It used to be. I've seen it a lot more. I've been kind of surprised that we are seeing septic systems just increase, and I think there's some new technologies that kind of allow that. So we haven't gone into super detail in this yet, but just generally, I think, we would assume that would be a possibility till we, weren't, till we were proved wrong.
Question to move the septic.
No, it's not out of the question either. If we wanted to go that way, that is a possibility. It's just kind of why we went to the left, but we could move and, you're gonna relocate your, sewer drains coming out of the building and so on. But, yeah, that's it. If we wanted to go the red on the right there and kind of keep it all straight, it gets a little trickier kind of, getting your access drive for your apparatus, because now you got to kind of curve to where you own to the street up in there. But that is probably doable. That might be an option to look at if that was something that you were interested in. That's why we're here, like right now. We didn't want to go too far without talking to you guys. Yeah.
And one more quick question, where the words existing town hall are located, so behind the building, are there any restrictions other than the setback, which is a ways away? Any restrictions keeping us from making the green taller, if you will?
There's just there's an antenna back there, there's some equipment, not a ton of stuff. Stuff that could be relocated again, for a cost. The only, issue is I'm trying to keep the apparatus bay doors, to get out quickly and get to the street. And the other piece that we want to do with this is try to keep town hall traffic like out of where, an ambulance might come screaming out. So we try to really separate the traffic circulation to make it safe for people coming in and coming out. So that's kind of where we got to on this one. So the other option that we took a look at, which we presented to the committee is we're just trying to make this tense, right? So the
Build up the suspense.
yeah. Oh my gosh, we're all the way at the beginning. We were so close, Curtis. There it is. So option B would be to just take a one-story building, take that 8,500 square feet and build it on the town-owned land right on the corner across the street. So there's a number of, so it's a little more expensive. I think it's actually probably pretty much a wash when we've added some of the elevator and the other kind of seismic costs to it. So maybe it's 100,000 more, maybe. But that's just for so it's 4.6 or 4,675,000 for the fire station. We're calling that kind of the minimum cost. The good thing is we can make it one story, which eliminates the square footage of the stair towers and the elevators. We can actually do a drive-through bay. So this would have, so the other one we added 4, we need 5 bays is what we determined for the fire station. So 5 apparatus bays. we could do that in 3 on this red one on the end, and you can put equipment in back to back, because we're gonna make the building deeper than what the building is currently. Right now, it's a little bit of an awkward shape. I think it fits like 1.5 pieces of equipment and only doors on the front. This one would be about 80 plus 84 feet, and you can pull doors on both sides, so it'd be 3 long bays, doors on both sides. So you can back equipment in, and you can actually use all 6 doors, but it's one big open area. And then the living quarters in the back and the administration in the front. I know you guys got that, you can probably see it easier on your plans. But then that keeps the public access over to the right here. And then any kind of business, you know, the apparatus coming in and out, come around on the left side over here with some firefighter parking on the left side. So it's great for circulation. You know, I think it's good. It's a better solution for your fire station than trying to add on to the existing building. And what that would lead you, even though it's more than what they need, I think it's 4,000 something is the existing building. 4,400, we needed 3,200 for the town hall. So there's excess space in that solution, but I don't know, it's not always such a bad thing. And again, we could just, if you just built this, town hall could kind of expand. I don't know if there's other uses and other more, you know, community rooms or kids, you know, after school. There's all sorts of things that you might need. Extra space isn't not a bad thing in your municipality. So, but they could kind of move in, take over the fire station offices, kind of expand into that as it is, and then decide what to do if you wanted the extra space. So really nothing would have to be done across the street. If you did completely remodel the building across the street, I think we used again 375, something like that, 325, 375. It's the total project would be about 6 million, but I think an initial investment would be, you know, 4.6, just building out and getting a lot done turnkey for the fire station across the street. And that's what today's numbers are. The market's getting a little better, but, you know, it's never going to come down to what it was. It always goes up and it comes down a little, and goes up, and comes down a little. And we've tried to keep it on the higher side, you know, knowing that construction on the island is a little more complicated than, you know, trying to get all your materials over here. So I haven't these are just really rough numbers. We haven't fully vetted anything like that. But like, again, we wanted to kind of pause on just an initial piece, get you guys involved in this, get the thought process going, and getting everybody in town kind of on board. So that's really where we're at today.
And we talked about the need for, you know, having per diem people and how that's across the state. It's not just here to the island. What kind of living quarters are you looking at? I would assume that's what that's for.
Yeah, so bunk rooms, and so we talked with Ralph about, you know, the number of bunk rooms that you might have in. So they would be located in the bottom right half. So the other thing we try to do is make it a nice living area so that people aren't walking through, you know, it's your home for the day. So we try to separate it from the office space and where people might visit the fire station for, you know, burn permits, things like that. So this one would be downstairs. The option A would be probably an upstairs kind of living area to be, you know, kind of get some privacy. The other thing that's, you know, you're going to find is you're going to be able to recruit better EMS people and firefighters if you have some facilities that are nice, you know, and because there's a lot of demand for these folks, not enough professional firefighters and EMS professionals. So, yeah.
So the existing building, the current building, I just trying to visualize what you mean when you say you'd be renovating it. So how do you take the current structure and make it, you know? I mean, you're not talking about knocking it down, you're talking about.
No, just moving, making it maybe, so we don't have to. I would just think, to try to, make it, more convenient for, people to come in and visit. So just moving walls around inside. And the town hall, I mean, is not held to the essential facility standards. Sorry, Deacon. So it would, we would probably just maintain it as we could. I'd probably recommend that you run some rigid insulation up some of the interior walls, remodel, just do a remodel plan in there, bathrooms, things like that, just to make it more functional for the town in the future. So, but again, you could start off just, I'm sure she would like just to have the additional fire department space right now. That would, give them, a fair amount of space, so.
And then has there been, this may be more for the committee, but for law enforcement, has there been any thought of providing living space for them?
Yes, that's in our space program as well.
So it's in the fire department side?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Chris.
So that's in addition to per diem firefighters?
Right, so I think we have a number of bunk rooms. We've got it covered in the amount of square footage that we have in the program. And right now, we haven't arranged any, we just kind of took.
You just don't know.
Yeah, we're just taking big square spaces like this. It's how much apparatus space. So we haven't done any design of any kind right now. Again, we're like looking to just say, are we, it's early and to get you involved early. Yeah.
The other question I had was, you had the comparable fire stations.
Yeah.
And, noticed that there weren't any, like, other islands that you compared.
Those are ones we've done. So that was an easy list. We can look at that. And I'm not sure how many. So what we don't want to compare to is another island that has a deficient, space right
I
now.
just
So
wondered if any other islands had upgraded their facilities. I don't think so.
I'm not sure. We can find out. That's something that we can take a look at. I'm not sure how much, different it would be from, a mainland, station of a community your size. The difference here is like, even if you had volunteers, when you do, if they're younger and more able-bodied, are they living and working on the island, or are they living and working on the mainland? So, so at some point, you're gonna try to, keep a volunteer, department as much as you can, but you're gonna have to start to really move toward, paid, either for them or fully paid staff. That's just the way it is all around. We're working in other, and there's some scary stories. We're working in some other towns where they've had fires and with a volunteer force, and like nobody came, so there was nobody there. So it's something that, get ahead of, I think, as you think about your future. Any other questions? Mark?
For the sprinkler system design, we have all drilled wells.
Yeah.
Or dug wells on the island. So would that design be an underground tank that refilled from, or filled from the well?
Yeah, so what we usually do is a pump system and holding tanks, and then it's, it's specially designed systems that are approved by the state fire marshal. So you're gonna pump it into a certain amount of holding tanks, and then have pumps that would activate in the event of a fire. We have done them without sprinkler systems, but bunk rooms get to be problematic, and then you have to have a 1 hour rated bunk room. Each bunk room has to have a door to the outside. we could look at it that way, but,
No, I was just curious, I figured that's what it was. We had one business on here that had a problem with their tank
okay.
and it leaked, so, what are the tanks usually made of in the ground?
So you can do big fiberglass tanks above ground or in, in an area or, in a small portion of the basement or whatever. And then again, there's pumps that are activated. So, and it'd be, the building would also, part of the cost is, be fully on a generator, as well. So it's going 24/7. The good thing is if you have a nicer station like that, the training room, you got a building that's gonna withstand, like, say there's a major hurricane, which there probably will be in the future coming through, even through Maine. You could use it as a shelter, emergency operations center. So there's, and especially if it's fully on a generator. So it gives you a place for people to kind of come to on the island. Maybe you have some places like that right now, but that's another benefit to folks here. And you're on a nice kind of, probably pretty much middle of the island, and you're not worried about the coast.
And I won't bore everyone, but would your proposed design, in your opinion, of a new building be a standing seam metal roof as opposed to an asphalt roof?
We've done, again, I think you can get a really good quality asphalt roof. What we've done for similar communities, and I think they're just as strong and durable we can meet all the codes. We've stuck to wood frame. We do the whole closed cell spray foam insulation in the building, make them super energy efficient. The only place that we need, because we try to clear span the apparatus space, so that's the only place for maybe a steel section is in the app base, and so we found that it's difficult to drive a big apparatus. And so a lot of the stations, I was really shocked when I first started doing this. I was very shocked at how many times there, a fire engine crashed into the column in the building or took the door out, or it happens all the time. Yeah, on there. So
thank you.
So and we've done, we did Buckfield. I mean, that was clad in in vinyl. I used some solid wood corners so it didn't scream vinyl, but there's all sorts of ways that we would help to try to work with you to keep it durable, functional, but as within your budget as possible. That's kind of what we do.
And one more, if I may, very quickly. And I realize these are just rough numbers at this point. I noticed in your heating recommendation, you recommended going to an electric heat pump system.
It's kind of the way of the future. I mean, if on a sustainability level, electricity is kind of the power of the future. We can get solar, we can, and so we kind of work with heat pumps. The other good thing is if we worked it in option A, that they're easier to retrofit, because you're just running the tubing through the building.
Yeah.
But you still probably have to have a ventilation system, and you want to keep that building ventilated. You want to keep it pressurized so that any, exhaust fumes in the garage, when you open the door from the building to the garage, that it doesn't suck in the air into the building, that the air always goes out. So somehow we need ventilation and pressurization.
Yeah, and this may be a little far-fetched of a question, but if we wanted to look at something more like geothermal or solar, that would certainly be a premium.
Yes, yeah. I've done Sacco's geothermal, closed loop geothermal. We certainly put, we're just Augusta's police station, that's fully, of course, solar, and we're looking forward to, we're assuming that in 5 years that probably a lot of police cruisers will be completely electric, and especially when you go to 0 to 60 in 2.5 seconds or whatever it is. And so we're planning for chargers, things like that, and that system. So I think, solar's come a long way. I think, it might, and the other thing is, for a generator, although it'd take batteries, in it, but at least you could kind of maybe maintain the building, with some solar, if you put in batteries, which I would wait for a few years until you get that. Yeah.
So the current,
Yeah, no
current
worries.
estimate doesn't include any kind of solar setup.
No, it's not bare bones, but it's kind of where, where our kind of middle of the road stuff is. I won't even tell you Augusta's budget because it's like scary, but they had that money already bonded to do it. So, but it's a good quality station, the longevity, good durable materials. So you're not gonna, be like 5 years from now, working on maintenance of the building. Most municipalities just aren't very good at, maintaining facilities. You just want to make them as durable as possible. So that could include some brick on here on the island, and probably stay with, kind of hardy planks and, cementitious kind of sidings, and try to keep the character, in keeping with the other buildings on the island.
Probably not.
Yeah.
But the other question I have is, it came up at a previous meeting, there's a lot of money available right now for retrofitting municipal buildings. And is there any way we could take advantage of some of that and, planning forward to sort of, like, for example, heat pumps in the existing building so that they could be incorporated into the final design?
You're a little probably behind the curve on some of that right now. I've got a couple of, a lot of it went to the counties, so we have a lot of ARPA money. We're doing Washington counties. They got $6 million for a new police station. Franklin County, we're working at, they got $3 million or something. So it's highly unusual to get federal grants for brick and mortar. Usually you get it for like equipment, apparatus. You might be able to get it for some.
No, but like the state, my understanding is the state right now has a program for improving the energy efficiency of existing municipal structures. So my question was, can we access any of that money for existing improvements that could be, in other words, it wouldn't be wasted, it could be incorporated into the final design?
Possibly, yeah, I'll give that a solid maybe.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Yeah.
But, one, we do have solar on hand now. We have solar. We have a solar generation facility for the town facilities.
Yeah.
It's community solar, but for the town.
Yeah, that's great.
If we were to go with a pair of new buildings and outfit everything with electricity, obviously, but we've got that going for us.
Yeah.
In terms of scale, I think what I'm seeing in the drawings here, and maybe you have this information at hand, it looks like you've looked at lot I07-035 in this, I'm looking at the option B drawing.
Okay.
Recently, there's another town lot, a lot over from that one.
Okay.
And there's a strip in between them, and that strip was recently swapped out, so the town land just about tripled. I just wanted to make sure that what we're looking at for scale here is just that one lot, I07-03. You happen to know?
Exactly that.
This is that the one that we're on right here?
It's definitely at the corner, and if I'm looking at it correctly, by dropping the existing town building into the image, it looks like you're just looking at that one. So just so everybody realizes the current land is a lot bigger than what we're looking at.
Okay,
The
sorry.
town tax maps, to my knowledge, so I just dropped that information off this week. And the current changes for the tax maps need to be updated.
Right, yeah, it's not.
Yeah, I
That's,
think
that's
you're
where we,
right.
this is
I
just
think you're
updated.
right, because what they did is they pulled off of what we have available now, but that doesn't accommodate the.
Through that.
Correct.
Could be determined too. if
Yeah,
there's
so I just,
better-
scale, I think it's absolutely the right location, taking advantage of the corner in the way that you have for the drive-through aspect and the parking aspect. One of the things I was thinking about was by considering that additional land to the right, if you will, the possibilities open up for some other parking requirements we might have,
Okay,
community parking.
great.
Yeah.
Great.
So, we have more like 5.
7:40.
Yeah, okay. We got 10 more minutes. If the board's satisfied, I'll open it up to the floor. All right. Anybody in the community have any questions they'd like to ask?
It's gonna look like them.
What's that?
Again, facility.
Well, we would make this look, that's something we don't have any problem with, making it look good.
How about a cross between Yarmouth and Cumberland?
What's that?
How about a cross between Yarmouth and Cumberland?
Now, you know, we try to like design the buildings to kind of reflect the character of the community, so I would think that this would be more island-esque than Yarmouth. But, you know, like in Buckfield, everybody was worried that, you know, the building would be too large. But you drive down the street, you got small houses, and it really fits in well, so, you know, and a big group, I think, is kind of a good thing on these buildings now, so, yeah. It would be unique to should be.
Unique,
Yeah.
a lot of that down here. All right, any other questions? Board? Thanks to you guys.
Yeah, thank you. And we're really happy that you're getting involved in an early state. I think that's really important that the community starts to hear things when, you know, when there's plenty of time for change and input. So, and there's plenty of time for that. Okay, thank you so much. Thanks for inviting us. and
Thanks for coming.
See you soon.
I think they did a good job.
Okay.
All right, so, this is the place on the future agenda.
Yep.
All right, you guys have some items. Just like.
RFQs are still.
RFQ what?
RFQ.
All right. That's for the next one.
Yeah, and I'm moving now. Oh, no, we want
Hopefully, by November first, we will hear back from Indiana.
to- Is that the next one?
Next meeting's in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Okay.
So
Put it on there.
I'll put a placeholder on there, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll shoot it, email. Okay.
Budget, you wanted the budget?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Corrected, yeah.
An update for Bennett.
Oh, whether we need to appropriate more money? Yep. The topo survey.
Thank
If, yeah, if I get it, I'll put it.
May I ask a question?
I would suggest that you ask him for the budget estimate and just say we need it for our next meeting to approve it till we're ready to go. He'll probably get that to you.
Really nice.
Well, you know, it's appreciated because we have to start somewhere. You've given us a direction. We've got years to plan this supposedly, and maybe there's money, but I think I just want to make sure that you put us on an agenda so we can get a direction of where you think we might be going, and we'll have input as well. So whenever you want to do that, we need to know so we can have a meeting for that. That's it. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
She's so much hunger.
Anything else? Anybody think of?
Well, I just have a question, and I should have asked you this ahead of time, but we have to populate this climate action team. I mean, even though we haven't heard about the grant, we will hear about it before Thanksgiving, but I think we joined the partnership, so we need, it's not really the same as a committee. They're gonna have a short life, kind of, you know, they might not last a long time as a committee, but they have to implement some of the steps in this proposal.
I received an email today, apologizing that it's taken them a really long time. They received an overwhelming amount of applications and that they're gonna probably be delayed to get back to us.
So given that, I do think that we probably need to form a committee. The reason I'm asking is because I don't know if you've been copied on these emails, but the Island Institute wants to do their Seal of Rise thing with the Gulf of Maine Research Institute, and it would make sense for that group to do that.
So what would the committee?
It's called I think in the proposal, we call it the Climate Action Team. And my goal, and I think Beaker's too, is to try to get some younger people on this committee for group. Because I really, and I think it might attract some, I can think of a few people I could recruit that expressed interest, but I just didn't know what the process is. Is that something we have to come up with charge, which the board has to approve?
Well, that was my next question. Do we have an idea of what the charge might be? Do we have an initial idea?
Yeah, I mean, I can
So
put that.
we would have write up a proposal
Yeah.
of, you know, a committee and its
Yeah.
charges, and then that would come to the selectmen. We'll put it as an agenda item, and then the selectmen would decide
So
and
let's do
critique
that.
and
Yep.
vote or
Yeah.
not.
So usually we just come up with proposed committee title, some sort of charge, maybe a number, and ad hoc or standing, and I guess the whole line.
Yeah, okay. And the other, I mean, it isn't really urgent, except that they have this program they want to implement, and it would make sense for the committee to do it rather than just citizens at large, because it's kind of oriented towards climate change. Okay.
So do you want to hold that off until towards the end of November's agenda item meeting, so then that way there is more time to come up with? Or do you?
I think I'd like to just do it, at least the approval of the scope, what do you call it, the charge? I'd do that for the next meeting. It should, I mean, I can get it to you, people can read it ahead of time. I know it's gonna be super controversial.
You never know. You never know.
Might be.
We'll do budgets, RFQ, Indian Islands update if there is one, Bennett School, and then, the final, action team for the climate action.
Do we want to put the facility committee on the next one, or do we want to hold off?
That's, I mean, up to you guys.
I think we should put it 2 meetings out and tell them it's 2 meetings out. I forget what she was asking for. Or some more.
Yeah,
So why don't we go ahead and say that it's gonna be 2 meetings out and let them know.
Yeah.
and that will give the
that would-
facilities
Plenty of
committee a
time.
Give
chance
them
to.
plenty of time to meet.
Hopefully.
Unless then, well,
No,
you
that's
know,
fine. It's
we'll
been
schedule it
pretty
for
good.
next week, or we're scheduled it for the week after, and then we'll meet with her. So that will be no,
Right, have we heard back from the Collins about the road widening? The Stone Pier line?
Well, the problem.
we were asked, we told them to hold off because we were gonna be decided
That's what we
what,
were doing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
all right.
they didn't proceed with anything past given 2 plans. One was parallel and one was angles.
No, we're seeing one.
They said Collins, meant CB.
Stevie Miller.
Okay, phew, I was like,
Yeah, that was gonna be.
I got a lot of names running through my brain, so.
Yeah, they're on
Trying to keep them all
Yes.
straight, kind of hard. All right, any other, future agendas?
No.
Jen?
Just that you'll let us know when we need to Zoom with them.
I will reach out to her tomorrow, get like 3 dates from her that work within the next, you know, probably week to week and a half at the most, and then send that to you guys, and then we can pick a date, and then we'll do a Zoom. Is there, I guess, a week day or night that works best for you guys, so then I can give her kind of a narrowed down version of which times or dates work best for her.
Wednesday.
Wednesdays, so if we do like a Wednesday evening or Wednesday afternoon on a non-meeting and do like 30 minutes to an hour.
Yeah, evening.
Yeah.
Evening,
So Wednesday,
15th,
6
and
PM.
Yeah.
And
I'll
would
see if she's,
would we come here and we meet?
no, we'll do this, we'll do it in executive session through Zoom. Yeah. So what I'll reach out, I'll say if, next Wednesday, 6 PM, executive session through Zoom works. If it does, then,
Yeah, they're posted.
what's the date?
26.
I think
Could
I
I
got
ask
some.
Oh.
a quick general question?
There it is.
Vika and Bob and Jen, will you guys at least attempt to reach out to Matt Tucker again at some point to see if they will meet?
We gave them
That's a
dates that we could
communication.
meet, we're waiting for Matt to get back.
We're meeting November 1st at 6 PM in Yarmouth.
But isn't that for me?
No,
November 1st is a Tuesday night, meeting what time?
6 PM, no, hold on, let me look at the calendar before I tell you. Calendar. Monthly. Joint standing committee, it's going to be on Tuesday, November 1st, 6 PM at the Yarmouth Town.
And do we have an agenda, or will we have an agenda?
We probably will. I'll look at the email to see, but.
Okay.
we have
I
a
think
date to work with. That's
the
no
general
progress
direction-
we've made.
The general direction, I think, was a meet and greet with the intent of setting future discussion
Yeah.
topics, but it would be great if we could at least
Yeah.
come to agreement.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'll
I
touch base with them now.
I have a couple of suggestions for some topic over there if you want to hear them at some point.
Can you email them to us?
Yes,
Mark, can you email them to us?
Yeah, they're very simple. Basically, it's just the crowding issue at our float. It's not getting any easier, and some of their mooring holes are being part of the problem. And whether we want to seriously look at longer ramps and bigger floats over there sometime, process of planning board and
So one thing that I have, and it's not gonna be for, was to get, the different committees that we have, planning board committee, all of them, chair, see if they need anything from us. We've never really done that.
Do we have a list somewhere that says who's on these?
Yeah, that'd be
good.
Yeah, the town has the list of who's on what.
And who's the chair?
yeah, I also was approached by one current member of the road plan committee. And the road plan committee, this is partly my fault. I'll make her take a little bit of blame. Herb and I just basically took the reins and made sure that the road improvement plan went forward, meaning the paved road. But I think at some point, that road committee should probably be looked at with maybe an adjustment to the charge, whether they want to be involved in dirt roads or not, because they really don't know what to do. We should probably think about that. If we're going to have that committee.
well, there's only one member on the committee.
Well, that's what I was gonna ask. So did somebody on the committee ask you or?
Doug Damon is a member. I thought Roman was still on there, John Pelosi, no?
There's only, yeah, we only have responses from 2.
Every time that I read mail updates, probably even before you started, they were always included, so they knew what was going on, but they never responded or. But we didn't really have any meetings. Either her or I was chairman.
So we'll put it down as the road committee charge to look at.
think it would make sense to have them come up to us with a suggestion, maybe some cost analysis on how much it would cost to do certain project on the road.
The last conversation I had with Doug Damon, he said, I think you should get rid of the road plan committee because the selectmen, town administrators, you could do a fine job at updating the roads. And I said, well, let's not, you know,
Well, that's what I mean. I think we should probably have that conversation.
yeah.
But in the past, I have reported to the selectmen, like when I was on the planning board, I did report to, I came and had the conversation with the selectmen about like what we're doing, and they asked what we needed, and I think we asked for GIS help, and so we have done that in the past as a select board.
Yeah.
So is that what you're suggesting?
The planning board was the only one, I never heard from anybody else. The fire department wants something, or any,
No, I
any
think that's,
department, we
what,
never
what
heard.
you're talking about, committees, not departments, right?
Yeah.
So-
Departments we usually hear once a year during budget season.
So I just want to
Right.
understand what you were asking. Were you asking, should the select board meet with each department, each committee chair to sort of find out where they're at and what they need? Is that what you were
Yeah.
asking?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think we've done that in the past. I think it's a good idea.
So,
And they usually come to the meeting and,
An agenda item on
yeah.
yeah, just,
Yeah, we usually offer them an opportunity to come, whether they
I think we should make it more than just offer, like really kind of say.
require.
Yeah, I think it's, because some committees are not particularly functional, and we maybe need to find out where it's at.
That's what I was wondering, is if we can look at all the committees we have, who's on them, and what they're currently working on, or if there's a charge, if they're functioning, and make sure
Yeah.
that.
Get the list, and go through it alphabetically, one per meeting.
And if somebody has another idea about how to do this climate thing without creating a committee, I'm open. Because you could take people from different existing committees, but then I don't think anybody wants to add, it's hard enough to get those committees to function without adding additional duties.
well, it all depends if they're requiring us to have a specific.
No, it's up to us.
Speaking only for myself, I'm interested to see what you come up with for a charge and,
Yeah.
and a goal, and where it's ad hoc, I'm not that concerned.
Okay,
I got a problem with the other person, but,
I know it's my personal bias that I'm being open about.
All right, any other agenda items?
I have a question.
Yes.
You can be a break. No, kidding. So when it comes to making a road, it's not a road, it's a maintained town road. It's just a right of way, from what I understand. Is there a process to make that an actual observed road, a maintained road for at the town?
It would have to be approved as a
Yeah.
town road.
Yeah, it typically goes to town meeting, it has to be approved by the town.
Okay.
Voted in, I remember briefly talking about, I can't remember what road it was, but we're thinking about if we were gonna accept a road as a town road, that we should have it come up to a certain standard.
Love it, point.
Which one, Mark?
So to have the road brought up to a certain standard, so that the town doesn't have to have the whole expense of having to rebuild the whole road.
Right.
Okay. So we didn't think that was fair to the taxpayers to do that. So, I don't think we ever.
I think the question is, what's the thing is, you would make a deal to perhaps the board of selectmen, when all signed on,
All four of us, yeah.
and, well, there's,
No, it's just four of us. Four houses.
okay,
Is there
You
more,
have
John?
John, yeah, John, you have Sharps, you have us, and you have Kitty. That's it. We're the only ones on our display.
But who owns across the road?
Yeah, they don't-
What's her name? You said the name, well, across, well, you have
Freeman's got a
Barnacle,
bunch
you have
of.
Barnacle.
Yeah.
But I don't think their address is our point, I think it's tax,
Yeah.
right? And then after that, it's just all swampland on that side of the road, right? Heading-
But whether it's swampland or not, somebody owns it.
Well, yeah, somebody owns
And
it.
they would-
I can't
so
remember their name, but.
My suggestion is that, if you write such an appeal, if you had everybody signing on to it, that's gonna have a better chance of capturing attention.
Okay.
And then, what I don't know, does the Board of Selectmen have the ability to say, yes, we'll move that forward to the town warrant? Or can we say, can the Board of Selectmen say we choose not to?
Yeah.
If we
Yes.
say we choose not to, does the appellant have any other avenue to follow?
Yes.
Citizen initiative.
So what happened last time?
That's, so to answer your question about what's the process,
Okay, cool.
there you have it.
Yeah, appreciate it. Okay.
But in fact, quickly, but in fairness to any request and some sort of, look at consistency, hopefully, we should probably come up with some basic standard that a road should be in before the town should be asked to take it over, and we didn't do that on.
Sounds like a,
No.
the road committee, sounds like a good
Yeah,
mission for the road committee.
Deer Point is another one.
Yeah, that
Oh, well,
was,
yeah.
Which my father always called the army road, because the army cars had been through World War II. They were threatening to come at us, and anyone can come at us with a request for taking the road over. I don't know what the answer would be.
Yeah.
Of this body and the voters ultimately should win.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Anything else?
Motion to adjourn.
All right. Second? We don't have.
All in favor, yes.